Arsenal Football Club take the Premier League title race for the 2023-24 season down to the wire. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it is a massive week in terms of the Premier League because it's the final week of the current campaign, and that means the Premier League title race is going to finally be decided one way or another come this coming Sunday. Of course, we've still got a bit of football to play between now and then, of course. But even so, it means that with yesterday's 1-0 victory under their belts, Arsenal have taken the Premier League title race down to the final day, regardless of what happens tomorrow night when Tottenham take on Manchester City, of course. Massive week for both of these clubs. Will Manchester City make it a fourth Premier League title in a row? Will Arsenal win the title for the first time in 20 years? Those questions are going to be answered this week. And of course, this is the video where we're going to be talking a little bit about yesterday and a little bit about mainly Arsenal as well and what to maybe expect from this week coming up. Before we go any further and talk about Arsenal, the game that happened yesterday and everything else in between, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and forever greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section as well. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to anything and everything about Arsenal and about the current Premier League title picture, current Premier League title, Premier League table, or anything else in between. I would love to hear from you all on anything and everything to do with that in what is going to be a massive week. So let's start. Let's get into it. Let's start with talking about Arsenal. Regardless of what happens, Arsenal Football Club have been incredible this season, and they deserve huge amounts of credit for taking the Premier League title race right the way down to the wire. They have been nothing short of incredible. Defensively, they have been phenomenal. In the midfield, the inclusion and purchase of Declan Rice has been as perfect a signing as you can get. The signing of the season by a million miles, in my opinion. And even up front, I had my worries earlier on in the campaign about how Arsenal were not clinical enough, and maybe that will come back to bite them. Whether or not they hold their nerve as the season goes on. But they've been nothing short of impressive. Each and every single one of them. And yes, a couple of them players have had bad spells. Saka didn't start the season off well. Martinelli hasn't had an effective as a season as what he has had in previous years. But other players have stepped up. Like I say, Declan Rice has come up clutch time and time again for a defensive midfielder to score some important goals. That's what you need. That's Rodri level. That's what we've been praising Rodri for a number of years. Kai Havertz, now, he's still got a long way to go, in my opinion, to prove me completely wrong, because one season doesn't make you impressive or doesn't make you great. But if this is the building block in which he's going to build upon and get even better, this season, he's been very impressive. He's been very, very good, and he's proved a lot of people wrong by laughing at his obviously price tag at the beginning of the campaign. He's stepped up. Martin Odegaard, the magician, the wizard, the puppet master, pulling the strings, has been incredible. Ben White has probably been the best right back in the Premier League on a consistent level all season. The centre-backs, Gabriel, Saliba, rock solid at the back. It's been impressive from back to front and even going into depth of that Arsenal squad. They have been incredible this season. And if they miss out, it will be a bit of a kick in the teeth. It will be bitter, a bitter pill to swallow. But they can't. But they can look back and go, we couldn't have done much more. And yes, there will be some nitpicking. Yes, there will be certain games in which you could say maybe if they'd have not dropped points against Fulham at the beginning of the season, and maybe if they hadn't have lost a couple of games on the bounce to the likes of West Ham and then I believe Fulham as well. Maybe if they hadn't have lost both of their games to Aston Villa as well. You can maybe nitpick certain things. But to finish on 89 points, if that is obviously going to be their final total, and would come behind Manchester City, you know, as much as horrible and as heartbreaking as that would be, it's still impressive as to where Arsenal have gotten to from compared to where they were a few short years ago. Yesterday's performance wasn't exactly vintage Arsenal. It wasn't exactly the best that we've seen of Arsenal this season, but they got the job done. And in a game in which a lot of people were expecting Arsenal to absolutely wipe the floor with Manchester United, I'd probably say that Arsenal was still in control, but they didn't have it all their own way. And I think a few tactical tweaks from Manchester United helped towards that. And it made it a little bit more of a competitive game than what I was expecting. And the scoreline of 1-0 obviously reflects that. I think Arsenal were very good in certain moments of the game. And then in other moments, they decided to back off and just let United have the ball. Because as much as United had the ball and had the lion's share of possession overall, they didn't really hurt Arsenal or test Arsenal with it. They were having possession without a genuine threat. And Arsenal were more than happy to let that happen. They were more than happy to let Man United have the ball. And they controlled it. And in the end, like I say, they just popped up with the all-important winning goal. Leandro Trossard, who is another one who has been impressive this season, popping up with some huge goals when they matter most, some big performances. Trossard certainly has been an inspirational signing, considering that, of course, he was bought after the collapse of the Mikel Mudryk deal that was supposedly going to happen to Arsenal. How much of a bullet is that dodged for the Gunners? Hindsight will say a big one. But no, Arsenal have been absolutely impressive. Like I say, yesterday wasn't perfect, but they got the job done, and that's all they had to do at that stage. And, you know, I think United, a few tactical tweaks here and there, stopped it from being an absolute bloodbath and a massacre, which I heavily predicted, and I will hold my hands up and say that I was kind of wrong on that front. But at the same time, Arsenal were pretty much in complete control, I would say. Despite not having the majority of possession, I would say they were pretty much in control. And then they've thrown the gauntlet down to Manchester City this week. And the irony, of course, is that City face Arsenal's major rivals in Tottenham. Rivalry is to be put aside this week in Arsenal fans' eyes, and they obviously want their fierce rivals Tottenham to do them a favour. Not that I don't think they have much hope in doing that, but obviously with the games counting down to just the final one this upcoming weekend, Manchester City's game in hand coming up tomorrow night at the time of recording, and of course with, you know, the games counting down and with little hope left of Manchester City being stopped in this incredible run that Pep Guardiola's side are on, Arsenal turn their hopes and their prayers to Tottenham. Now, it would be very Spursy of Spursy to help Arsenal. It very much would. I don't think a lot of their fans are going to be too happy if they do, but it would be very Spursy because we all know this is happening at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We know that that's been a bit of a bogey ground for City. We know that's been a bit awkward for City in recent years. So Arsenal may have that in their favour, but Tottenham fans, I don't think, will necessarily want their side to win this particular game. Whether or not Champions League football is going to be on the line for Ange Postecoglou's side by the time this rolls around or not, obviously remains to be seen. But yes, very much Tottenham will probably want City to actually beat them. Not that that has actually sprung to Ange Postecoglou's mind, as he has stated that he thinks that people who want their own team to lose in favour of rivals also losing need to get their heads tested, or something, or words to that effect. So, by all sense of the imagination, Spurs are going to go for it tomorrow, it seems. Now, whether or not that's just Postecoglou talking, whether or not Daniel Levy will get involved and be like, listen guys, we don't want Arsenal to win this, so let's just help Manchester City in any way possible. Let's make it a respectable game. Let's not kind of throw the game, but a little bit like what happened yesterday. let's just be in the game. Let's not go too gung-ho, but at the same time, let's not really pose much of a threat. Let them score an early goal and then just ride the game out in a very, very boring way. Maybe that's what Daniel Levy will be saying. I don't know. But it is interesting, and it obviously is a very interesting scenario that the Premier League has thrown at us for the penultimate game of Manchester City's season, which is obviously the penultimate game of the overall title race that we're going to be seeing. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Now, City are, of course, expected to beat Tottenham tomorrow, whether or not Tottenham play well or not. So Spurs are expected to lose that game. City are expected to go and win that game, and that will obviously put City above Arsenal going into the final game of the season. 2 points then will separate City and Arsenal going into the final game of the season. Now, of course, Arsenal do have a goal difference advantage in their favour. But of course, should City smash a few goals past Spurs, which they've been doing in recent weeks, they've been getting a few goals and they've really clawed back that goal difference. Should City get a few goals tomorrow night, it could make things even more interesting going into the final game. Arsenal have held their own in terms of scoring goals and not conceding many. And the goal difference has been heavily in their favour for the large majority of the season. But if City are to absolutely put Tottenham to the sword tomorrow night and swing that goal difference back in their favour, it could set up a major advantage for Arsenal, for City to go into that final game of the season against West Ham, and I think Arsenal have Everton, if memory serves me correctly, that they could win it via goal difference, which would be incredible, which would be monumental, and has obviously happened to City before. So it's massive. There's major implications for tomorrow night. There's major implications for the weekend, but Arsenal have been incredible all season. They deserve their flowers. They deserve that special mention. And if they were to miss out by the cruelest of margins, an odd couple of points here and there, or maybe even via goal difference, if it obviously comes to that, it'll be harsh on them. But you have to take your hat off to in certain cases to Manchester City for what has been another incredible run for them. The way that they keep their momentum going, the way that they keep the mentality still strong, and the way that obviously a lot of people had sort of written them off a little bit at various points in the season. I've always maintained that they've been my favourites throughout, but I have questioned them at times, and I think we have seen, as strange as it sounds, that City could finish on 91 points, win their 4th Premier League title in 4 consecutive seasons. They're 6 and 7 or something along them lines. They have been a little bit vulnerable at times, and I don't think teams have really managed to exploit that enough, shall we say. Like I say, it'll be cruel on Arsenal, but at the same time, they've been brilliant to watch. Can they go again for next season? That may be another topic for another day. As for right now, though, attention does turn to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for tomorrow night. Attention does turn to that Tottenham-Manchester City game. Arsenal are praying that, rivalry aside, their closest rivals can do them a monumental favour, in which I think for at least a day, Arsenal will leave Tottenham alone in terms of bantering them and poking fun at them. But it will only obviously be short-lived if that was to happen. And I think certain Tottenham fans will be hoping that their team just roll over for Manchester City. It's a very interesting and intriguing scenario, but obviously it's something that is going to unfold later on this week. For me personally, I've always maintained City to be my favourites, so I'm not really changing that. And obviously with Pep Guardiola's side holding all the cards going into the final couple of games of their season, I'm not changing my opinion on that anytime soon. So without giving too much away in terms of my predictions this week, I would strongly suspect Manchester City to beat Tottenham tomorrow. I think that is going to happen, and I think the Premier League title race is going to go down to the final day. And then City will probably win it from there. I said I don't want to give too much away, and I just completely give it away. But no, I've said that all season, to be fair. But I think for Arsenal, They've certainly proven me wrong in certain areas. Like I said earlier on in the video, I questioned whether or not they had enough about them in the attacking third, a sharp edge in the attacking third to obviously score the amount of goals that they have done this season. They've proven me wrong there. I question whether or not they have the mentality to go toe-to-toe with Manchester City throughout the remainder of the season, and they proved me wrong there. You could argue maybe the advantage being in City's favour, even with the game in hand, has sort of benefited Arsenal maybe a little bit, but they still obviously had to win the games that were put in front of them, and they did that with, for the most part, the complete composure and professionalism that you would expect from a team that is challenging for the Premier League. I have nothing but praise for Arsenal, and I think it'll be unfortunate if or when they do miss out. For City, an incredible achievement that I think the large majority of football fans, if they are to make it 4 on the bounce, will be hoping that the 115 charges absolutely wipes out any achievement that they have done within the past 10 to 12, 14, 15 years. So, yeah, a lot to come this week. A lot of action as the Premier League reaches its conclusion. I want to know what you guys think, though. What do you make of Arsenal? What do you make of Manchester City? What do you make of the title race that be? What do you make of yesterday's performance against Manchester United from the Gunners? What did you make? What are you making of the City-Tottenham game to come tomorrow night? What are you making of the City game to come at the weekend? Who wins the Premier League title race? I want to know all of this good stuff from you beautiful, wonderful people. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll make it interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Speak to you all again very, very soon.